Oh, they got two. Okay, I'd like to start the planning board meeting tonight, Wednesday, June 22nd, 2022. It is now 6:32. Determination of quorum, Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Burke is excused tonight. Mr. Kinney.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Reyes.
Here.
Mrs. Elderkin.
Here.
Mr. Price is excused tonight. Vice Chair Colunian.
Here.
Chairman Flynn. You have a quorum of 7 tonight. Okay, this is a hybrid meeting again. We're going to keep the Zoom part of it for public comment and and for the public hearings. Emergency evacuation out through them doors, left to right. We could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
United States of America, to the republic
Which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if anyone is here tonight for 2305 New London Turnpike, that project is continued to July 27th meeting. Okay, election of secretary. Do I have a nomination?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Chuck Smith.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kenny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for stepping up. Appreciate it.
Can I have one word, please?
Yes.
I accept the position. Those are big shoes to fill. Have a lot of respect for the person. God bless her. Sandy was quite a historian and brought a lot to this board and a lot to the town. So expectations will be high. It may take me a long time to learn everything that she did, but I'll give it my best effort with her spirit watching me. Thank you.
Well noted. Thank you. Okay, I have a recommendation to zoning for special use permit. DeRoche's 20 York Drive, applicant Dwayne L. DeRoche Jr., owner same. Applicant is seeking a special use permit to construct a second floor. It's a 2-car garage with a driveway and a farmer's porch. AP 22 Lot 20, Zone R20. Anybody here representing the applicant? That's 20 York Drive. Okay, seeing nobody for the applicant, we'll move over to 6.2. Little Imagination, Zero Chase Road, applicant Gina Mahoney, owner same. Applicant is seeking a renewal of an already approved modification to previously approved special use permit for the Coventry portion of a Situate residence daycare, AP 101 Lot 1, Zone RR2. Anybody here representing the applicant? Name and address, please.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh. Yeah. Is that better? Okay, yeah. Good evening. My name is Mary Shikarchi. I represent the applicant. My office is located at 240 Chestnut Street in Warwick, Rhode Island. Actually. If I may proceed.
Yes, sure.
Thank you. So we are here before you, excuse me, again this evening for a renewal of a planning board approval that we received twice. Once back in 2018, and again, we came back in 2019. In 2018, we had to appear before the zoning board for 2018 for a special use permit. This is a project that is in both the town of Situate and in the town of Coventry. It is for a daycare facility. The building will be in the Situate portion of the property, and the parking will be in the back of the property, which is in the town of Coventry. All of the parking, no construction of any building will be in the Coventry property. So after we came through Coventry and we got our permits, we went to the town of Situate. We went back and forth. We revised our plans, and our permit had run out here in Coventry after 6 months. And we came back because we needed to add 5 additional parking spaces to the parking area in Coventry. So we came back before you again in 2019, which was approved, and again through zoning, which was approved. Unfortunately, COVID hit. Our project did not go forward, and all our permits have run out. So we're back before you with the same proposal. In 2019, we came before you with a plan, which is the same plan before you this evening. It included some recommendations from the planning board at that time, or the planning department, which we incorporated them. One of them being the traffic flow, being counterclockwise. We also included the landscaping plans as required or recommended, as well as increasing the parking spaces. And we also included the trash area to be enclosed. If you note on our plans, we also have included the lighting, so it does not interfere with any neighboring properties. That is basically a proposal. I don't know if you have any specific questions of me. I'd be happy to answer them.
Are the trash areas in Situate?
No, those
They're
are
in
in Coventry. If you're looking at the plan from the street, it is all the way to the very back of the property, and it's enclosed by gates.
Because I noticed the staff said there's no trash areas shown.
I think that was is that a recent recommendation or staff comment? Because that was a comment back in 19, and we did address that and put that on the plan.
All right, just
Yeah, sure.
anybody else have any questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah.
The only question I have for you is based on this, I'm understanding this correctly. All traffic will be exiting through Situate.
Correct.
Trash removal will be through Situate or private company.
That I don't know for sure. If it's allowed by Situate, it would be, but I doubt it is for a commercial property. I
So it'd be
believe it has
private.
to be private. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the only questions I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Hey, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Chairman, I'll make a favorable recommendation to zoning board for owner applicant Gina Mahoney, 0 Chase Road, AP 101, Lot 1, Zone RR2, rural residential. Is this existing use is a vacant lot? Basic, Megan? Just making sure I'm on the right one. This,
That's a mistake.
okay, yeah. For a parking lot in conjunction with the daycare. See what we got going on here. The proposed plan will provide safe ingress and egress of vehicles via Hope Furnace Road. Additionally, the one-way design of the parking lot and angled spaces shall allow for safe traffic flow. 21 spaces in Coventry plus 8 spaces in Situate satisfy the parking requirements.
If I may,
Yes.
I'm sorry. That is that. I think you might be referring to the first plan.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, this,
Yeah, I'm sorry. We got some items in our planning director's report that are not up to date. So we'll just try. How many spaces do you have?
we have a total of 30, and they're all in Coventry. Originally, they were in the front of the building, but we changed that for safety purposes to all be located in the back of the building.
Okay. The 30 spaces in Coventry will satisfy the parking requirements. Trash areas are now shown on the plans. Utilities are adequate. The plan indicates landscaping buffer. Landscaping has been added to the plan as well. Proposed buffering shall satisfy the requirements of zoning. Plan indicates that lighting shall have no impact on neighbors. Proposed use is not overly intensive. The comprehensive plan describes land use in the area to be low to medium density. The child daycare facility would support residential users. and the safety and health plan it will have no effect. I would also like to recommend inclusion of the planning director's report in this motion with the correction of item 432B about available off-street parking, changing it to 31 spaces in Coventry and no spaces in Situate.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Reyes. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Arnold Bond, 655 Narrow Lane, applicant Nancy Arnold Hotzink. Owner Henry Arnold. Applicant is seeking a special use permit to construct a two-story 40 by 52 barn, AP 302, lot 17, zone RR5. Is anybody here representing the applicant? Anybody here for Arnold Bond? Okay, seeing none? Yes.
Somebody who that might be the applicant.
Oh, I didn't realize that they could do it through Zoom. I hope I didn't miss anybody on the first one.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Go
Great.
ahead.
Okay. I'm Nancy Hartzig. I'm the applicant for Arnold Barn. The owner is my father, Henry Arnold, at 655 Narrow Lane, Green, Rhode Island. I also believe that my architect is on the phone. Her name is Lori Keene from Keene Architecture in Wakefield, Rhode Island, and she's available for questions if needed. I'm here to, I have requested an application for a special use permit for an accessory structure, namely a barn that will be 40 feet by 52 feet, two-story. And I'm also requesting a dimensional variance. The requirements for RR5 are 22 feet in height, and I'm requesting 35 feet, which is the maximum for RR5. All other dimensions for the zoning for RR5 are well within the requirements, except for that dimensional variance. The purpose of this structure is going to be for storage of utility vehicles, agricultural materials, as well as recreational equipment. It is located at the bottom of the hill. It's a 32-acre lot. At the bottom of the hill is a pond, and at the top of the hill is the primary residence. There's about 1,000 feet distance between those, and so we're looking to put the barn closer to the bottom of the hill by the pond. It'll be situated between two fields that are actively maintained there on the edge of the pond. We also want to have, in addition to storage of materials and equipment, we want to have access to utilities, electrical and plumbing for use while we are recreating on the pond or working in the fields. We also would like to have seasonal use by family members so that we can have some basic services for intermittent overnight use for family gatherings. So that I believe summarizes it. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Go ahead,
I was
Rick.
going to add one question or one comment to add. We did go ahead and submit the wastewater treatment system to DEM for the structure, and we received approval from that as well.
Thank you. That was on the director's report. Thank you for that info. Go ahead, Rick.
I just, in your presentation, did you say you're asking for height relief?
Yes.
Because the front of the plan has required 35 feet and proposed is 35 feet. That's what it says on the cover sheet of the plan. Are you going higher than 35 feet?
No. It should say required for an accessory structure is 22 feet, whereas a normal
Oh, I
structure
see.
is 35 feet.
Okay, that's what it means. Okay, all right. Okay.
So yes,
And there are no plans for any type commercial use of this facility, right? It's not going to like be for hosting weddings or
correct,
events. Okay,
correct.
that's all I had.
Any other questions from the board?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Kenny.
With the bedrooms and the kitchen set up in the barn, you're not planning to rent this out to anybody or have a tenant?
No, this is strictly for seasonal family use.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, Mr.
Go ahead,
Chair.
Mr. Smith.
Make a motion for Nancy Arnold Hartzing, owner Henry Arnold, 655 Narrow Lane, Assessors Plat 302, Lot 17, Zone RR5, single family dwelling, to do a special use permit for the Arnold Barn. So the property has a permanent physical access to Narrow Lane via an existing driveway. The proposal will provide for safe ingress and egress of the vehicles. The property has sufficient off-street parking, trash storage. The property has adequate space for storage of trash receptacles and room for trash pickup. Availability and location of utilities. Utilities are pre-existing. The applicant will have to submit plans to Rhode Island DEM to ensure that the OWTS septic system is adequate for the addition of the bedroom and the accessory dwelling structure. Screening and buffering, not applicable. Signs, exterior lighting, not applicable. Required yards, open space, not applicable. General compatibility with abutting lots. The adjacent property is a single family residential use. This proposal is compatible with abutting lots. Compliance with industrial performance standards, not applicable. General compatibility with the comprehensive plan. The proposal is consistent with the comp plan. Will the special use permit, if granted, create conditions that could impact public health or safety or welfare and morals? If the applicant is issued a special use permit, then the project should have no detrimental impacts to the public health, safety, or welfare and morals. And also include the planning commission's report for a favorable recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Smith. Do I hear a second?
Second,
Second by Mr. Kinney. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Good luck in
Thank
zoning.
you. Thank you.
See if the erosion has.
Yeah. Just one more time before we move ahead, I didn't realize we had applicants on Zoom. Is there anybody on Zoom for the DeRocha 20 York Drive application? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thanks, John. Okay, next we have old business for discussion and or action. Public hearing continued, I believe from December. Preliminary plan, comprehensive permit, residence at Boyd Brook, owner, Green Light Farm LLC, applicant, Green Light Farm LLC, proposed 64-unit residential condominium development that would include 48 market rate units and 16 affordable units. AP 330 lots 30, 81 zone RR3, rural residential, Town Farm Road.
Mr. Chairman, I request to read.
Okay. You'll be, Mrs. Elderkin will be recusing herself from this project. Go ahead, Mr. Pagliarini.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commission. This is a comprehensive permit application for 64 two-bedroom units with 16 affordable and 1 non-buildable land parcel subject to a conservation easement. We were last before the commission on December 15th, as the chair said, when the commission required the applicant receive all state approvals before returning for consideration of preliminary approval, which, as you're aware, is not a redo of the entire project, It's rather a technical approval of those requirements that were approved at master plan. Due to the length of time that it took us to secure those approvals, out of an abundance of caution and fairness, the public hearing was renoticed and advertised to the neighbors for April 27th and was continued to the date certain of this evening. The required notice and green cards were provided to staff. Not only did the commission request state approvals, but the residents through their council contacted me and said that they wanted state approvals before we would move forward with the project. We sought and did an intensive archaeological survey as required by a 2003 environmental team report previously conducted on this site. The study was completed with some 194 test pits on the property. The State Historical Preservation and Heritage Commission approved our submission on March 30th, 2020, and with the sole requirement that we stay 50 feet away from the historic cemetery that's on site. At this time, I would like to introduce as an exhibit, I know the board is in possession because they were emailed to staff. I have one copy for the board and one for the clerk. I'm going to give the chair all the estate approvals.
Thank you.
I'd ask that this one of our applicants exhibit. I'm not sure what people are on, but that's the archaeological survey approval. There was also much neighbor concern about the wetlands. We received approval of our wetlands and RIPD's application on April 8th of 2022. This approval was granted by DEM, where they reviewed the well water withdrawal rate, the clearing of land, and the remnants of the dam. I'd like to introduce this approval as applicant's exhibit. Board, the chair has.
Okay.
The Department of Health reviewed the water demands of the entire area, locus of abutting wells, and the Rhode Island DEM wetlands approval. What was very interesting was that Department of Health wouldn't review the well until wetlands was granted. And then septic wouldn't review until wetlands and Department of Health reviewed the well. So there was a lot of piggybacking going on. The Department of Health approved our proposed public water supply wells on April 25th of 2022. And I'd ask that approval to introduce that as an exhibit.
I'm sorry, what was that one?
Department of Health for the well water.
So the wells were drilled?
Yes, sir. Both wells physically exist. DEM reviewed the wetlands approval and the Department of Health's approval. There was a concerted effort by the neighbors to write letters because the neighbors are notified during the septic approval process. And multiple neighbors sent letters to DEM. Our expert witness had to address those letters. DEM considered all of that, and on May 4th issued approval for 7 different septic designs on the property. I'd like to submit that approval as an exhibit. All required state approvals have been granted. The town is in possession of them. I respectfully ask this commission to take notice that the proper state agencies reviewed our submissions, abutters' comments, and state regulations, then approved our applications. Additionally, this commission approved our master plan on November 18th of 2020. That approval, which vested rights with the applicant upon the expiration of the appeal period, dealt with comprehensive plan consistency, density, traffic, and other local and state regulations that are not before you this evening. That master plan approval was our starting point on December 15th, when my experts testified for nearly 2 hours before this commission. I asked that the commission approved minutes of the December 15, 2021 public hearing be introduced as an exhibit, and those are also given to the chair. This is a copy of the December 15th minutes, which had the testimony of the experts summarized. Our engineer, hydrologist, landscape architect gave expert testimony and our wetlands expert was available for questions. For almost 2 hours, we presented and answered questions on the preliminary approval submission, including those questions posed by 12 residents who spoke during the public hearing. We understand the neighbors do not like our application. Their concerns about the environment, waterways, wetlands, wells, and wildlife were addressed by the 4 state approvals that were granted. None of the state approvals found the project harmful to the environment. This commission asked us to seek all state approvals because that was the litmus test on whether we could support the project density approved at master plan. There are 0 conditions that required a reduction in density. My team of experts is available this evening to answer any questions of the commission, but I'm going to rest on their December 15th testimony that was previously given. 2 final matters. At the December 15th hearing, we sought 5 preliminary waivers, 3 which are now moot since we have the state approvals in hand. We renew our request that the detailed building elevations and the fire marshal's review of those plans be continued until final approval. And lastly, as the state approvals are in place and the building official and fire marshal will review the required plans, there's nothing else that we can do or change on this project, and we seek administrative final approval for this project. And at that, we will rest, but we're all available to answer any questions that the board or others folks may have.
Okay, just to recap, we do have master plan approval.
Yes, sir.
We went through it. Sorry. So we do have master plan approval on this project. We went through hours and hours of testimony. The last meeting in December, this board unanimously voted that we wouldn't hear the project or vote on the project until you had all your permitting from the state, which you do have tonight. Unfortunately, it's been so long. I'll take questions from the board members first, but I will open up public hearing again, just because of transparency. It's been going on for, it'll be 2 years in September. So
Understood.
I don't want to stumble now. So I think that's right for the public to have any questions on what you presented in your preliminary part.
Yes.
Anybody on the board have any questions for the applicant before I open up public hearing?
As long as we can ask questions after with regard to I just want to make sure I understand fully that, what waivers are still being requested and some of these other things that appear in the planning director's report, but I'd rather proceed to public hearing.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to open up public hearing.
I'll make a motion. We open public.
I have a motion by Mr. Smith. I have a second by Mr. Reyes. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, public hearing is now open. Is there anybody in the public that would like to come up and speak for or against this project? Come on up, sir. Name and address, please.
Hi, my name is Shane McGrath. I live at 748 Town Farm Road.
Shane
McGrath, 748 Town Farm Road. I would like to read the preliminary plan review written by Michael Sullivan, PhD, former director of Rhode Island DEM in regards to the residents at Boyd Brook. I have reviewed the documents provided as attachments to the agenda for the Planning Commission meeting of December 15th, 2021. And I have a number of observations and comments I believe are critical importance for the commission to consider prior to making their ruling. Planning Commission is required to proposal meets the requirements of the comprehensive plan permit or whether or not to approve the preliminary plan submittal, and 3, whether or not to grant the requested waivers submitted by the applicant. It's my overall opinion that the required concerns for the environment and the health and safety of current residents have not been adequately addressed and are masked under the suggestion that Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and others will make judgment on what is best for Coventry. This is not a prudent or wise stewardship of the needs of the Coventry community. The proposed development is not compliant with Coventry zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, or local concerns and that it fails to assure the citizens in the town that there will be no significant negative impact on the health, welfare, and safety of current and future residents of the community, especially in regards to appropriate sewerage disposal, potable water quality, adequate stormwater runoff, and the preservation of current residents and potential future residents through inappropriate or impossible promises. There are a number of points I'm particularly concerned about and others I have reservations about: how the application was submitted and items presented as facts were considered. These comments are not as detailed as I might have provided with either my listening presence or a transcript of hearings. However, I provide them to endeavor to assist your community. Some of the broad concerns are my fundamental disagreement on how the suitable for development land was calculated. The submitted estimation of the lot count of 19 lots does not allow the follow a process I believe to be accurate or appropriate. The simple presented density calculation of 59.71 per 3 acres equals 19.9 or 19 lots is flawed. The real maximum lot calculation should be 59.71 minus 3.34 acres plus 4.72 divided 3 acre minimum equals 17.21 or 17 lots. This maximum calculation assumes that it does not challenge the suggested 59.71 unregulated acres and reduces it by 3.34 acres committed to storm detention and the 4.72 acres of roadways, sidewalks, and parking. 3 acre minimum equals 17.21 lots or 17 lots. The submitted calculation results in a 12% inflation of allowable lots. Further and subsequent concerns stem from the fact that the site is dominated by wetland features and shallow to groundwater concerns. The previous gravel operation renders it a very different site than a virgin landscape sequence. The result of previous gravel mining and airstrip construction caused me to conclude building area is overestimated and the impacts of stormwater hydrology and contaminant minimized or ignored. The site soils are of higher infiltration rate and reduced contamination retention than the mapped and reported soils in Rhode Island soil survey reports. I vehemently disagree with the suggestion that there is no significant negative impact on the health, welfare, and safety of current and future residents. The proposal represents significant adverse impacts to groundwater quality, exacerbates the regional risk for mosquito vector disease to people and animals. The stormwater basin system will dramatically alter the local hydrology. A much different hydrograph will be demonstrated at immediately down gradient homes, roads, and facilities. A rain delivering as little as an inch of rainfall will generate in excess of 200,000 gallons of water, with over 1.5 million pounds responding to gravity and looking for places to go. The change in water infiltration, contaminant retention, movement of virus, bacteria, and other waste stream constituents will be dramatically different. These changes will, in my opinion, result in human health issues from excessive nutrients from waste, stormwater runoff, and landscape maintenance practices. There is no suggestion of consideration of how these concerns are factored into the treatments would be influenced down gradient residents. They are ignored other than a gratuitous promise to will use herbicide or use no pesticides. This gratuitous statement reflects a heightened concern I have with the knowledge of proponents, as all herbicide are pesticides, and thus the attempt to differentiate is unnecessary. There are currently over 4,000 pesticides registered in Rhode Island. These extend from common household cleaners, drain cleaners, common use insect controls to those shown in recent years to be essential to the protection of human health. The site, with its wetland features and with the creation of over 3 acres of open stormwater drain basins, will create an immense increase in mosquito habit and accordingly elevate human health risks. Subsurface stormwater management techniques would reduce my concern, but open habitat basins are planned. The increased human health risks associated with wetlands expansion does not reflect the dramatically increased number of mosquito vector diseases, nor does the submission reflect any knowledge and or a combination of the greater temporal exposure of humans to these diseases, attribute to climate change patterns and earlier occurrence in the later residual occurrence of these pests and disease. The no pesticides pledge would be rendered meaningless in a high mosquito year. The pledge of pesticide free is further meaningless in that there is no enforcement provisions or regulatory entity for such a pledge. Gentle language such as best management practices are used without any meaningful description of these that lends itself to a local understanding and acceptance. The impervious surface area is challenged by different specifications on house size, paved surface area, and others that would greatly increase the flow to catchment basements. Unaddressed is the temporal impacts of these surface area changes. The current conditions allow for runoff to be dispensed over a greater time frame after event. Creating the substantive increase in accelerated flow will, in my opinion, enhance stormwater problems under current conditions and greatly exacerbate them under any reasonable forecast under climate change conditions. The request to defer all wastewater and well sitting considerations until after DIM permits obtained is unwise. I suggest that these details are an appropriate need for the town to ascertain impacts on human health and water quality. Thus, I'd recommend the submission does not address legitimate concern for the water quality, hydraulic connectivity, and flow rates, and thus is absent any safety assurance for residents in the community as required by law. Granting an increased density and high water table does not recognize the fact that time, environment, and water quality are impaired without regard to the noble goal of creating greater housing opportunity for citizens. A wet site is more vulnerable than less challenged site for projects such as this. The details for estimating wastewater impact and well water supply should not be pushed down the road. The sitting, loading, draw, and other association details with disclosure in advance in the proposal, including these numbers, is able to be assessed with the necessary interests of the residents and community. Fee and performance bond waivers are requested. This is a concern in that the necessary maintenance in private subdivisions for facilities is frequently ignored. And then a petition to accept failed water systems are usually submitted to the town. Having served 6 terms on Richmond Town Council, I have direct experience when promised infrastructure fails. The developer is gone and the community requested to financially bail out of the project. A submission in expense of safety nets in the form of performance bonds is warranted. Absence performing guarantee, the waiving of protective covenants is unwise and would result in unacceptable risks to the residents and community. The challenges to development or the hardships on site management not to be attributable to the current application, but are certainly due to past ownership and the limitations of the conditions were purchased by the applicant. Thus, they exist, and the abutting public should not be asked to absorb the expense or impacts of these short site comings. Approving a hardship provision would be akin to approving a commitment of municipal funds and enhanced risk to current community members. In summary, I believe the subdivisions are inadequate and reflect an unacceptable risk to the citizens and resources of the town of Coventry. The water resources quality and distribution will be adversely impacted. The risk to the health and well-being of Coventry citizens unnecessarily expanded. The proposal should be rejected as submitted. Michael Sullivan, PhD. We have proven to this planning board with expert testimony that this development does not promote the health and safety of the surrounding residents, does not comply with Coventry zoning regulations and comprehensive plan, and is not a good decision for the town or the residents within. We have also proven with Mr. Coyle's expert testimony that this development will reduce the property values of the surrounding residents' homes. Because with one act, if approved, this planning board will have changed the zoning in this area and the rural character of the neighborhood. I cannot think of any good reason why the town would consider to approve a development such as this one in a rural area with no public water or sewer, which does not comply with zoning. The adding of 14 affordable housing units does not justify the complete neglect of the zoning regulations and the lack of concern for the health and safety of the residents of this community. I urge this planning board to deny this project because it is the right thing to do for all the residents for the town of Coventry. Coventry's comprehensive plan is well written and it should be followed by planning and zoning to protect this community and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to address that? I know a lot of the things in that letter is from master plan that has already been approved. So if you just want to,
Simply, I presume Mr. Sullivan is not here.
no, I don't see him.
And then I would request that the board,
Excuse me, please. I can't hear him.
Having not sworn Mr. Sullivan in as an expert witness or given us the opportunity to cross-examine Mr. Sullivan, his testimony should be accepted by this board as lay testimony at best. It probably should not even have been submitted since he's not here. But if the board sees fit, I think it should be considered as lay testimony. It was not expert testimony since he was not here and sworn in as an expert.
Okay. And I do have to comment too, that our engineer, we have a very good engineer in town. He's reviewed all these plans and he hasn't seen any problems with any of them as long as you've had all your state permitting. So I just I wanted to throw that out there. It's not like the board sits here and doesn't read anything. We have a lot of information. And
I'll take it a step further, Mr. Chair, because I've had numerous conversations with my engineer. The town of Coventry's stormwater regulations far exceed the state of Rhode Island's. And the town engineer signed off on them. So,
yes, thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Come on, sir. Name and address, please.
Philip St. Jean, 672 Town Farm Road.
Sorry, Philip St. Jean,
St. Jean.
672 Town Farm.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir.
I have one question for Mr. Pagliarini. The cemetery, are you allowing a right of way for people to get to that cemetery in your plan?
yes,
It's on the plan?
I understand.
Yes.
And
It is on the plan.
if I may, Mr. Chair, that was the one requirement of the state. Can you get on the mic, please?
Thank you, Mrs. Secretary. That was the one
The
requirement.
one requirement of the state historic preservation was that we not get within 50 feet of the historic cemetery. But yes, I believe deeded access is shown on the plans.
Okay, that was one of my questions. The next one was, I took part in the water level test by allowing his hydraulist, or whatever you call him, to insert some sort of a probe into my well. And when they did the pumping, they were going to record the levels in the areas around to see if there was going to be an effect. I never did get a plan from them when they completed their tests. That was part of the deal, that I would receive a plan with the findings. And of course, it's a major concern to everybody in that area, whether or not the water levels are going to be affected by the amount of water that's going to be used by this. Can you address that particular
Come on up, Mr.
area? Is that gentleman here?
He is.
He is, okay.
If I may, if we could have our hydrologist.
Sure.
My name is Robert F. Ferrari. My office address is 567 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island. Mr. St. Jean is correct. He did agree. Actually, let me back up. When we were doing the second round of pumping tests, we contacted many of the neighbors. Mr. St. Jean, among others, contacted us about putting a level transducer in a well point on his property. And he was gracious enough to do that. And we did indeed put a well point in, put a transducer in his well point. Unfortunately, when we went to extract the transducer, the cable got snagged on something inside the well point, and the transducer to this day is still sitting down in his well point. This is not to my knowledge, it's not his normal water supply well for his house, but indeed it has been there for many years and is actually an accurate monitor of groundwater elevations in the immediate vicinity, and he's adjacent to Boyd Brook on the opposite side of Boyd Brook from the project site. I apologize to Mr. St. Jean because I did agree to more than agree to send him a copy of the report. I will make sure that we send a copy out to him tomorrow. I'll even be glad to hand deliver it if that would suffice. I do want to point out that our report has been submitted to both DEM and Department of Health. It is public record information. I also believe copies were submitted to the planning board here, but I do apologize to Mr. St. Jean. And I also want to point out he was very friendly, very cooperative, and was glad to work with us, and we appreciated his participation in the program. If there's any other questions or any other information I can provide for you.
What is the findings?
The findings of the pumping test program, for the second round, similar to the first round, was there was no identifiable or discernible impact off-site as far as impacts on water supply wells. There was no discernible impact on Boyd Brook or the immediately adjacent wetlands. There was no adverse impact whatsoever. And in fact, we found that there was actually limited connectivity between the two wells, which were fairly close together, the two pumping wells that we drilled on the site. And again, the detail is in the report, but it was extremely positive findings. DEM reviewed the findings because they are responsible for reviewing groundwater extractions, and Department of Health also reviewed the reports and the evaluations as part of their approval of the two wells for use as public water supply wells.
Thank you. And you'll get a copy of that report to Mr. St. Jean.
I will get a copy. He will have that report between now and say Friday morning.
And the two wells that that were on site, and any statistics on those gallons per minute, how deep they were?
We actually, we pump those wells at flow rates well below what we believe their maximum capacity is. The first test, we pumped at a little over 15 gallons a minute, which is approximately 21,000 gallons a day. The second well, we pumped it. And by the way, the first test was run for 48 hours continuously. The second test we ran for 72 hours continuously. We pumped that at a little over 10 gallons a minute, which is about 14 or 15,000 gallons a day. The average daily demand for the project is 9,000 gallons a day, and a maximum day demand about 14,000 gallons a day. So we actually were pumping equal to or greater than the maximum possible projected water demand for the entire project at 100% build out and 100% occupancy.
And when were you pumping?
When were we pumping? We did one pumping test in the fall, and we did the other one in February, as a matter of fact.
And the conditions, if I'm not mistaken, didn't we have a little bit where we were hurting for rainwater? And some of those
in the fall, we definitely had that was less favorable conditions relative to groundwater recharge. And actually, in February, we were in very much of a freeze condition, and there was very little superficial recharge into the ground, even though it's in the winter and theoretically in a wetter season. The local climate conditions, everything was frozen, quite frankly.
And how deep are the wells, if you know? Well,
these wells are drilled more than 400 feet deep. They're fairly deep wells, 400 to 500 feet deep.
And when you said, I know you said about the demand for the project at 9,000 gallons per day, that's based on how much per person?
That's based upon, first of all, it's based upon 100% build out and 100% occupancy. And that's assuming the nominal is 65 gallons, or actually 67.5 gallons per person per day. That's the maximum day. The average day, we prorate that by, we divide that by 1.5. So it's about 45 gallons per person per day. But we have 2 people per bedroom, and every bedroom is 100% occupancy.
Yeah, no, Kent County Water actually prints 65 gallons per day per person as the average. And I've seen a few water bills, including my own, and it's less than 40 gallons per day is what's actually been used.
Right.
So even the 9,000 could theoretically be somewhere to 5,000 to 6,000 gallons per day.
It's
especially with you guys. I assume you're putting in all low flow toilets and all that stuff's going to be installed.
Yeah, there's going to be water
1.3. Yeah. Okay.
Methodologies used in the construction. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you're confident that you're going to be able to draw all the water that's needed for the people that live there, and there's not going to be adverse effects on the surrounding wells.
That's correct. Based upon our net extraction, because again, The site is using on-site septic systems for that recharges about 85% of the water extracted is direct recharge back in. Our net extraction at 15% is equivalent of the water extracted is consumed and or otherwise lost. And that represents about 1% of the average daily natural recharge on the site. So that's a very minor percentage, which is why we believe we can support a finding of no adverse impact, which indeed was supported by the findings of the pumping test program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
just to recap, so DEM reviewed the results from the hydrolysis test for the site itself and for the abutters.
That's correct.
Okay, so to review it is one thing, and they would have red flagged either one if there was a problem with the abutters, if they saw something on the results.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, it wasn't just a simple review. And then just to follow up, none of the residents got that report, or was it just this gentleman?
I don't recall that we sent the report specifically to the residents, and that's an error on my part. We were focusing on getting reports into the regulatory agencies, but I will make sure that all the four residents actually participated in the second round of pumping tests. Mr. McGrath volunteered to join the test. Unfortunately, we were not able to access into his well. Wasn't for lack of trying, but physically we could not get into his well. We even brought a well services company out to attempt to do that, but unfortunately we couldn't. I will make sure that Mr. McGrath, as well as the four participants, get copies of this.
Okay, thank you. And the results that they'll see is the same results that DEM saw
It's the exact.
and approved or did not approve.
Well, they'll get the exact same report, which was submitted to both the Department of Health and to DEM. And in both cases, we received the requisite approvals that, that each agency is responsible for.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hey, Mr. Pagliarini, are you all set, Mr. St. Jean?
No.
Come on up.
Not all set.
Name and address, please.
I'll do it again. Philip St. Jean, 672 Town Farm Road. And what's to follow is basically my opinion only, but I want it on record. 15 to 20 years ago, Coventry was in a building spree. There were developments going up all over town. The developers were finding loopholes and able to put more houses and cram more houses closer together than really what was allowed in the zoning. I happened to come to one of the meetings one night when one of the developments, I believe it was in the back of my Hope Furnace Road. It was off of Hope Furnace Road. The developer was applying for 15 more houses over what was allowed by zoning. I got up and I made a speech to the planning board that I thought the building spree was out of control and Coventry wasn't able to handle this kind of influx of the people that was coming in. They listened. The following day, I received a phone call saying they appreciated my opinion and they were going to put a moratorium for 6 months and put together a committee to study the rules, regulations, the zoning, the changes in the comprehensive plan for the town so that this wouldn't happen again. This 6 months later, the zoning was changed. A lot of the plans were changed and the zoning was pretty much adhered to. Certain options were involved where people were allowed to put the houses closer together if there was wetlands involved and what have you. But the amount of houses remained the same for the zoning in that area. What I'm leading up to is by approving this plan that we're talking about tonight, 64, is it?
64 units.
64 in an area that has no sewers, no water, been gravelled with a brook that runs right alongside of it that feeds Johnson's Pond. I think that The planning board approving this is opening a situation for greedy developers to jump on the bandwagon with this so-called affordable housing clause, which is the only reason why I was told this was allowed to be put into that area.
It's state mandated. We don't have our 10% affordable.
I'm sorry?
We don't have our 10% required affordable housing stock in Coventry. So that's why a
This is what I'm
compromise.
leading up to.
Yes.
When I talked to the planning board 15 to 20 years ago, they stopped what was going on because they knew it was out of control. And they took measures so that 10% was taken care of when they started to allow development again, so that they just didn't spiral back into an overflow of greedy developers. Not all of them, I'm not saying that. But in my opinion here, by allowing this to happen, and I know he's going through a whole rigmarole with the DEM, the whole 9 yards. I went through it myself in town. I think that the planning board really needs to look into the problems that this could create in the future, because there's not going to be a large parcel of land left on the western end of Coventry that isn't subject to what's happening here. My opinion, and thank you for listening.
Appreciate your opinion. Anybody else in the audience like to come up and speak? Seeing none, anybody on Zoom?
We do that. One person raising.
Yep. Matt, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Matt Felice. I live at 216 Mile Road. And the one comment I wanted to make is, given that this is a condo development, I look at the hydrology reports and water consumption, and my assumption is that most of these people will be watering their lawns extensively, given then that this entire area is already clear cut. So there'll be grass installed in all of this area. Is that water usage calculated in with the current estimates for water use?
You want to come back up, sir, and answer that question, please? Hold on 1 minute. I'm going to bring their expert up.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Name and address, please.
Robert F. Ferrari. My office address is 567 South County Trail, Exeter, Rhode Island. To respond to Mr. DeFelice's question, the two wells that we have Department of Health and DEM approval for, those are as a public water supply, and they are not to be used for large-scale irrigation. They, if somebody wants to take fill a watering can and do a couple of tomato plants or something like that, that's not an issue. If the development was going to put in dedicated wells for irrigation, they would once again have to go before DEM to have that reviewed and approved. But the wells that we've installed, tested, gotten approved are strictly public water supply wells and not for irrigation. Okay.
So is
Does
it
that answer your question?
well, so is it your understanding at this point that water use will be restricted via some way to keep the residents there from watering their lawn from hoses and such to have the grass that most people who live in condos would desire to have? Because I know that most condo associations and areas that I've gone to, the grass is significantly greener than, you know, your country club grass.
Mr. Chairman, John Pagliarini, if I could answer that question.
Sure, go ahead, John.
I don't have an answer, and we would be okay if the board, as part of preliminary approval, put that restriction that there is to be no outdoor irrigation unless approval through the proper state agencies is sought and granted.
And that could be in the condo docs also, right?
Sure. But I think if the board makes it a requirement, then we're good.
Great question, Mr. Felice. We
Thank
will
you.
make it a condition.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank
Mr.
you for
Chairman.
that question. Anybody else on Zoom?
Just want to ask them to raise their hand.
Anybody on Zoom want to raise their hand? If you want to speak.
No.
Okay, anybody else in the audience before I close public hearing? I'll take a motion to close public hearing.
Make a motion when close public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Smith. I have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Kenny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Okay, does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Go ahead, Mr.
I kind of want to delve into just one issue that I think Mr. St. Jean brought up, because I think we were talking about density, and that seems to be the reoccurring theme. And again, I don't know whether this is for our solicitor, but I just want to make sure I clearly understand. The board granted master approval, which basically established the density for this project before the applicant spent additional monies on engineering and design for the septic system, the water quality, the wetlands, and the permitting. There was also counsel for some of the residents in the surrounding area, if I'm not mistaken. They had a 20-day appeal period that they could have challenged our vote at that point. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Galunian.
And there was no appeal filed.
No, there
And
wasn't.
that would have been the window for us to act. To do that now would be possibly to the board's detriment.
Yes, because master plan is the plan stage where issues related to density are determined. And I think you were correct to point out procedurally, they've advanced to a stage where they have expended effort and time and have done a great deal of engineering and the reports that we've heard about. So all of those reports obviously were based on the density that the board approved back at master plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Is that it?
Yeah, for now. We'll see.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Anything else, Rick?
Well, I think before we consider whether or not anything else is needed at this stage or before a motion's made, I think we've got quite an extensive planning director's report. We've had it for some time, but there's a number of waiver requests and relief, and I'm just not sure which ones are current and which ones are not.
Mind reviewing them, Mr. Pagliarini?
Absolutely. Respectfully, none of them are current. That was extracted from master plan. We went through multiple nights of being before you and back and forth, I'll say, with the commission. And the board went through them line by line and said, yay or nay. The only outstanding one that's not before you is whether or not we go to council and seek abatement or waiver of the impact fee for the affordable units. The only waivers in front of you this evening are making the architectural plans and the fire marshal's review of those plans a condition of administrative final. But all those other waivers have been adjudicated or withdrawn.
Thank you. Did I clarify that, Rick?
I think so. Yep.
Before I entertain a motion, does anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Just want to make sure I've got everything else in here.
Got a question, Mr. Kenny? Go ahead.
Mr. Pagliarini, when this project was put forth with the housing units, wasn't the original number significantly higher than the 64?
The original number was 96.
Right, and the board, in concert with the applicant, decided that 96 was too excessive. And
The board
Yeah,
said
not the
96 was too excessive. We still would like 96.
right, we believed 96 was too excessive, and the applicant went back and you guys came back with a proposal of 64.
Correct.
So the density was addressed, and we did do our due diligence when trying to answer Mr. St. Jean's statement about not letting just buildings go up willy-nilly.
I think Mr. St. Jean's comments are well taken because they dovetail into comments that I made during master plan of some of the weaknesses that the town has with their existing ordinances and the updating that's needed on those, that's desperately needed on some of those. So Mr. St. Jean's comments are valid. But again, Mr. Kenny, you're correct that density was a major point in the early going on this. And as the solicitor said, there was an appeal of that. Just more for, I know the board's aware of this, but more for the audience and the abutters is tonight, it's you're voting, you granted master plan, whether or not you said yay or nay. And now your vote could be different because it's, did you conform to what we said and did you go get what we told you to get? Have you met the town of Coventry and the state of Rhode Island's rules and regulations? And you know, our belief, the answer to that is yes, but that's your vote. But that's where we are this evening, is that you're not voting on density, consistency, comp plan. That's done. And
Correct. I just wanted to bring that to light, that we did actively look to reduce that, what was presented, and we approved master plan based on that reduction and the applicant working with.
Correct.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you.
And just as a point of information, if you know, the state, when they, made provisions for these comp permits to begin to get the cities and towns, do you recall when that was, how long ago?
oh boy, we started, I've done some applications as far back as 03, 04. So it's been close to 20 years at least.
More, yeah.
That it's been on the book.
Just curious.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I believe it was 2005 when the town did their affordable housing plan.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to approve the preliminary application for the comprehensive permit application for the residents at Boyd Brook, owned by Greenlight Farm LLC and Thomas Miozzi, the applicant being Greenlight Farm LLC, the address being at Town Farm Road, Assessors Plat 330, lots 30 and 81 in the RR3 zone, consisting of approximately 70 acres of vacant land with an existing airstrip as an affordable housing project. The applicant is proposing to construct 64 individual buildings with 25% low to moderate income component, which allows the project to be reviewed as a comprehensive permit application. The proposed development appears to be consistent with the local needs as identified in the local comprehensive community plan, with particular emphasis on the community's affordable housing plan, and satisfactorily addresses issues where there may be inconsistencies. Coventry's affordable housing rate by the state's actions is 5.4% compared with 8.3% in Rhode Island overall. The town of Coventry and the Coventry Housing Authority should continue to secure all available resources to provide housing to low and moderate income groups. The proposed development complies with the standards and provisions of the municipality's zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations, or were expressly varied or waived, local concerns that have been affected by the relief granted do not outweigh the state and local need for low and moderate income housing. The proposed density of dwelling units amounts to 1 unit per 1.1 acres and exceeds the standard baseline density for the RR3 zone, which is 1 dwelling per 3 acres, as well as the absolute maximum density permitted under the zoning ordinance of the RR3 zone for a cluster development. The application sought full waivers of many development fees, including fees of applicable market rate units, as well as affordable units. All low and moderate income housing units proposed are integrated throughout the development, are comparable in scale and architecture to the market rate units within the project, and will be built or occupied prior to, simultaneous with the construction of occupancy of any market rate units. There do not appear to be any significant environmental impacts from the proposed development as shown on the final plan with all required conditions and approvals. There don't appear to be any significant impacts on the health and safety of current or future residents of the community in areas including but not limited to safe circulation of pedestrian vehicular traffic, provision for emergency services, sewage disposal, potable water, surface runoff, and the preservation of natural, historical, and cultural features to contribute to the attractiveness of the community. All of the proposed units will have adequate physical access to a public street. The proposed development does not result in the creation of individual lots with physical constraints to development. That building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards will be impractical unless created only as permanent open space or permanently reserved for a public purpose. Okay, I'm going to stipulate that the condominium development restrict outdoor water use unless the appropriate approvals are obtained from state regulatory agencies, and also that the applicant be allowed to submit, also that the architectural drawings and approval from the fire district be obtained prior to the final plan, and that the final plan may be approved administratively. And I'd like to incorporate the planning director's report into my motion.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Kenny. Any discussion? I'm going to do a roll call vote on this. Mr. Clunian. Aye. Mr. Smith. Aye. Mr. Kinney.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Mr. Reyes.
No.
And Chairman Flynn also says aye. Motion carries 6-1.
Thank you.
5-1, excuse me.
Thank you for your
I
time.
think I had that vote. Yes. Glenn, can you get,
She's out there.
oh, she's out there?
Okay. Thanks, Tom.
Who's presenting this one? I was. Relocation of the drainage. Staff. Oh. It was got mixed up with a lot line. It's an administrative thing. The old one wasn't in this packet. We had it.
This is just an amendment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the, I think staff's going to handle the next one, right? So if there's any questions on the division on Ginger Trail. Okay. It's pretty straightforward, but thanks. Okay, next we have new business for discussion and or action. Final plan amendment to Highwood subdivision, Resource Construction and Company revised drainage easement between AP 70 lot 72, 74. Parts for the original subdivision for AP 69 lot 66 and 77 and AP 70 lot 35, zoned R20. It's 72, 74 Ginger Trail. Does staff want to comment? Are you here for that, Mr.?
I am.
Oh, well, come on up. No, come on up.
Welcome the assistant from the staff.
Come on up, Mr. Cronin. I know this is an old development. So I read the packet and.
Mr. Chairman, Thomas Cronin, Nolan Bernero Cronin Farrar, 1070 Main Street, Carvajal, Rhode Island. For the applicant, you stole my thunder. I was going to say this can't be blamed on me. I was in elementary school when this went through. As Mr. Clooney might recall, it was the Sunshine Lawyer who did this work.
Yes. Yes.
2012 approval, 2014 construction. The deeded drainage right away supposed to be 30 feet. Probably a little impractical at any rate, but no one informed the homeowners that this was the case. They erected a pool, a fence, shed, driveway, you name it, right? There's been some drainage areas problems in. Mr. Smith knows all about those.
Yeah, I've walked.
Yeah,
I've been with them.
Yeah. So in the course of addressing those drainage problems in the neighboring properties, it was discovered that this drainage area was never properly identified to the homeowners. As uncomfortable as it has been, that has now been addressed. The pool has come down. The neighbor has agreed to remove the fence, and we have shrunk the drainage area to 12 to 15 feet wide to maintain the driveway and stone wall on the premises and not cause any further destruction. The town DPW and the town engineer are in agreement and will beg forgiveness.
Any questions from anybody on the board?
I have a question, and I'm not trying to place blame, but sometimes I have to ask myself how these things happen. I know recorded subdivision plans usually show the details, and then the homeowner gets the deed and it refers to a lot number. And if it doesn't say specifically that there's a drainage easement or they're not given a copy, is that kind of what happened, or was it not shown on the plan or not referenced where it should have been, or was it just like, well, somewhere along the line, no one bothered to look, or the realtor didn't give them the copy of the plan? If you know,
the deed referenced the plan only. It didn't have the easement language in the deed.
And
so you'd have to be an engineer or a planning commission member.
Or go and look at the plan, or the realtor say this is your lot and have it shown, and they may not have. They may have shown a basically different type scale plan without the detail. Okay. Yeah, I was just curious to see.
The lack of cross reference, as you mentioned.
That's it. Okay, thank you.
And the town wouldn't catch this if buildings were erected through the permitting process.
Well, I think the town actually shared some of the blame on this, Mr. Chairman.
Because you said they put pools up, they put sheds up, they put fences. You have to get permits for all of those.
Right. And the town agreed that, it just kind of got away from everyone. It's not, it wasn't a significant part of this project. It was, an ancillary drainage area. And so everything big got inspected, and this just got kind of let go, but it had an impact.
So this corrects the easement problem so the town can get in and do anything they have to do as far as maintenance.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
And the plat was recorded with the drainage easement. So even though there was a disclosure issue, the compromise to the residents was, we're going to reduce the size significantly. We're telling you about it now, but what we'll do is reduce it to only what we need.
That's right.
And that was acceptable to them.
That might be a stretch, but they've been informed and they've cooperated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, it's touching that one.
Any input from staff? I think Mr. Cronin covered everything.
There wasn't.
He's an excellent counselor and.
Sure is. Okay, we'll need a motion on this, Mr. Solicitor.
Yeah, I think you should take a motion and a vote requires an action.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Rick has the copy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this was before us before, and I think some folks didn't have it in the latest packet. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a favorable motion that we grant final plan amendment to reduce the size of the drainage easement that was shown on the recorded plans for the 20-lot residential cluster conservation development. Assessors Plat 69, location of the drainage easement being on lots 66 and 77 in the R20 zone. The applicant at that time was Resource Construction when they came for a major subdivision.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Smith. Any other further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. You want to add anything, Rick?
Well, there was a question. Yes, I'd like to just amend my motion to
Okay.
incorporate the planning director's report and with specific attention to that easement exhibit prepared by Deprete Engineering for the Highwood subdivision that was contained in the packet.
You like to amend your second?
I'll amend my second to include the amendment.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, next we have another public hearing, development plan of review for the Huntley Building Owners DNS Development Group LLC and Stephen R. Gorman, applicant DNS Development Group LLC, CO David J. Gorman, proposal to combine lots 67 and 68 to construct a 4-unit commercial storage building, AP 38, lot 67, 68, zone general business, and the address is on Arizona Street. Anybody here for the applicant? Go ahead, Mr. Cronin.
Mr. Chairman, Thomas Cronin, the home Bernero Cronin Ferrara, 1070 Main Street, Coventry, Rhode Island, for the applicant. With me, Patricia Walker is a site engineer and Sam Swanson, site surveyor. Briefly, this project has been around the block. So in October of 2020, we appeared before the town council for introduction for zone change. This board heard that recommendation to council for the zone change in November of 2020. In March of 2021, we had a public hearing before the town council to change the zone of lot 68 to general business, which was approved. We were back before this board in May of 2021 for a pre-application. And in August of 2021, before the zoning board for a public hearing on our requested variances, which were granted. The way this has all shaped out is that vacant land on the eastern side of Arizona Street off of Tioga Avenue is proposed to be merged into one lot and the construction of a prefabricated commercial garage building be constructed. To the north of this lot is vacant land, zone GB along Tioga Avenue. To the east is single lot, which is half general business and half R20, formerly Don's Auto Top. To the south, a residential lot, and across the street, across Arizona Street, 2 single-family houses on lots 73 and 74, which although are residential in nature, are on lots zone GB. It's an interesting zoning area. The proposed building will face south and is placed along the northern boundary of the lot to separate it from the adjacent residential property. The driveway and the parking area to the south, the proposed 4,000 square foot building would have 4 units with garage doors. Oh, sorry, I hear 3 units from the back. 3 units. The applicant will occupy the units himself and rent out a couple that he's not using. So partially owner occupied. Public sewer is available. It, however, has private water. Public utilities and access are from Arizona. The zoning variances which are granted were relief from the loading zone, relief from the minimum landscape buffer, relief from the side yard setback, and relief from the minimum frontage, as these are pre-existing non-conforming lots and no one can create frontage. So we are requesting waivers from this board for driveway width of 22 feet where 24 is required. And we're requesting relief from the requirement of a landscape architect plan, a landscape plan from a registered landscape architect. And we'd request final administratively. As far as the loose ends, we've submitted to sewer. We were heard by the sewer subcommittee. We're not exactly sure what's going to happen with that meeting. There's been some question about whether they had the proper quorum for that meeting, and I don't know what the results will be. The folks that were there approved it. We'll see where that leads. It's been submitted to fire for review. And the final thing is the planning staff will undertake a review of an administrative subdivision for the merger of the 2 lots at the time that final is submitted. I have with me, as noted, Ms. Walker, who can answer any questions with regard to the design of the plan. But in general, that's what we have before the board tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Corona.
Well,
Name and address, please.
Patricia Walker, Patricia Walker, Walker Engineering, 31 Vale Court, West Greenwich. Just to clarify, the project did originally propose 4 units. And after we've gone through the reviews, Mr. Gorman has decided that the 2 rear units are actually going to be combined as 1 unit, and that's the unit he's going to occupy. So it is, just to be clear, 3 units.
thank you.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead.
I found it. Yeah, it's just a sheet 4 of 7. I circled for a washout area, for concrete and such. I don't know what kind of businesses are going to be going in there, but I mean, how is like a washout area? How is that managed? Because I just know that personally, cement can have a lot of silica in it, a lot of toxic metals.
Actually, that's for when the concrete truck comes and pours the foundation. It's a sediment and erosion control. The detail is shown on plan.
Page 4, I think, right? I think I see it. I just wanted to understand washout area. As I understand it, it's just a place.
It's for the concrete trucks.
Yeah.
So that they can, if they need to wash out before they
Just for the development.
right, and then it goes away. And
Okay.
Actually, the detail is shown on sheet 6.
Okay.
It basically has a plastic, a polyethylene base that's surrounded by hay bales
Yeah.
or some other erosion, and it's only a temporary thing. It's similar to like the construction access,
Yep.
which is the bigger stone so that the stuff comes off the trucks before it goes into the.
All right, thanks. I understand. I just didn't know if it's permanent. We had a cement business going in there or something. Okay. All right. Thank you.
I got a quick question on drainage. I know Mr. Smith can attest to that street always flooding when we have heavy rains. I don't know if there's something that you can do to alleviate that issue. I know it's not the applicant's concern if it's a street issue, but there's already a lot of water that ends up in that street.
So if you're familiar with the lot, the entire lot is gravel now, which is
Yes.
considered impervious.
Yes.
So we're taking out the, a portion of that to provide the landscaping. So as anything comes, basically the lot flows from the back toward the roadway, but it does have the landscaping, which will act as to slow anything down and absorb stuff. We are reducing the amount of runoff, and by the provision of the landscaped area, we don't even have to address the water quality because we're reducing the impervious coverage by that
You're going to
much.
capture a lot of that runoff. Any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. This is a public hearing. I'll entertain a motion to open up public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Kenny. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Reyes. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now open. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to comment or on Zoom? Can anybody on Zoom raise their hand if they want to make any comment on this project? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion. We close public hearing.
Motion by Mr. Smith. I have a second. Second by Mrs. Alderkin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is now closed. Any other questions for the applicant?
I just, what's that, a 5-foot wide sewer easement down the side of the property? Is that what that says? Proposed? I can't.
Can I give my name again? Okay. The 5-foot wide sewer easement is actually for the adjacent lot. You can see where the sewer line for the lot 69, it's very close to the property line.
Right. So
So it's the sewer line for the adjacent lot.
okay. So in other words, it's 5 feet on his property, but then if they had to construct a sewer line, they would actually use some of lot 69 because it's to
No,
service that.
it's the other way around. It's an easement that lot 68 is granting to 69.
Right. That's what I mean. So if 68 needs to put a sewer line and they
No,
can use,
68 is putting their sewer easement in.
I'm sorry, 69 is putting in a sewer at a
Right,
later
and it's
date.
just if they have any repairs or whatever,
They
have
got
to
a
use-
5 feet buffer on the
Right.
other side of the line. Okay, because they're going to put it down the line.
Makes sense.
Okay, that was it. I just wanted to make, because I knew 5 feet wasn't very wide for a sewer easement.
And
Okay,
it's actually so they can provide the separation to the well that's being proposed on lot 69. That's why it's so.
Thank you. Any other question?
No, that's pretty common in that neighborhood, and a lot of the sewer lines, they was the back of the house, like on which side, right? There's no way to dig them.
Okay, hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, go ahead.
Motion to approve this application with a couple stipulations at the end, and this is for the project name Huntley Building. The owner of Lot 67 DNS Development Group LLC, the owner of Lot 68 Stephen R. Gorman. The applicant is DNS Development Group LLC. This is AP 38, Lot 67, 68, Zone GB. The applicant just proposes to merge AP 38 Lot 67 and 68 and construct a 4,000 square foot building for a compromised 3 units, I believe, to be rented to tradesman type businesses. I'm going to be adding the director's report into my motion, which has several finding of facts and also the requirements laid out of Article 16 of the zoning ordinance. I am just going to read a couple finding of facts that I think is pertinent in this motion. As far as consistency with the comprehensive plan, the project is generally consistent with the comprehensive plan and proposed business is located in the appropriate district, zoning district. And the other one I want to read is the proposed use generates little traffic. The ingress and egress via Arizona Street should be adequate to handle vehicular traffic in the area. I'm going to approve in my motion, I'd like to approve the waivers for the commercial drive width of 22 feet, which is less than the 24, and the landscape prepared by the registered landscape architect, not needed at this time. And the stipulations would be that the applicant just want to get it right. That the applicant is required for the following approvals for the Central Coventry Fire District.
We've been trying.
Okay,
That's-
it's in the motion. The Town of Coventry West Warwick Sewer Commission, which I know is in the plans approval, and then also administration subdivision approval to merge both lots. Okay. That is going to end my motion.
You want final administrative?
I did request that.
Would you add that?
Amend it to also include this proceed to final administration.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, again, that public informational meeting for 2305 New London Turnpike is continued to July 27, 2022. Okay, we have a preliminary plan, Black Rock Ridge, owner Gervasio Family Real Estate LLC, CEO Thomas Gervasio, applicant same, proposed 2-lot minor subdivision, AP 79 lot 94, zone R20. Address is 401 Black Rock Road. Is there anybody here representing the applicant? Mr. Cronin.
Thomas Cronin, Nolan Bernero, Cronin Farrar, 1070 Main Street, Coventry, Rhode Island, for the applicant. As Mr. Flynn aptly described, we're here for a 2-lot minor subdivision on Black Rock Road. It's AP 79 lot 94, zoned R20. It's currently 3 3/4 acres. It has a house on it. The proposal is to remove the existing structure and divide the property into 2 lots for residential use with frontage and access directly to Black Rock Road. In other words, no street creation. There's a wetland to the northwestern portion of the lot. Mr. Stowe puts up there, which places the development to the south and southeast. There are easements for power lines that run near the southern portion of this property. They have a utility easement for those lines which run over the land. New lot 1 would be 116,611 square feet with 445 feet of frontage. And new lot 2 would be 48,006 square feet with 120 feet of frontage. There are no zoning variances required. This will be OWTS for the septic. We have Kent County water approval. We are requesting final administratively. There are a couple of conditions that we do need to address. We have submitted to, well, at the time it was National Grid. Now it's, I guess, Rhode Island Energy, but the public utility for permission to put a driveway in across and near their utility easement. It's been submitted, but we have not heard back. Similarly, we have need DEM wetlands, and the fire department approval has been submitted, but has not yet been received. I have with me here tonight Sam Sawasa from Coventry Survey, who designed the site plan. If you have any questions with regard to that, Sam, would you like to make any comments?
Yeah, I know where it is. Can't think it's.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Thanks. Mr. Cronin, just the waivers, right? I think you just ran through a couple of them.
Yes.
Not the waivers. Yeah, the waivers. Is that how I'm reading it? There's 8. You're asking for What was the only waiver you were asking for? I missed it. I'm sorry.
We need, we want to delay until final.
Yeah.
Checklist waiver.
Yeah.
The approval of the utility to impede on their easement, DEM wetlands and fire department approval. We want to delay those until final approval. Oh, yes.
I have a question. So you're,
Mr. Anderson?
Yeah. Yeah. For now. Thanks.
okay. So you're submitted to National Grid. Do they get to see the whole plan, including proximity to dwellings?
Yes.
Okay. I just want,
Yeah, what you have there is,
that's the same thing they've got.
that's correct.
Okay. All right. And let me see what else. And what, I guess what I want to ask is, I noticed the plan is pretty, it shows the locations of the on-site wastewater treatment systems, but you only have at this point the preliminary soil data, and those are going to be worked on after.
Come on up, Sam.
Just name and address, please.
Sam Sforza from Coventry Survey Company. We're at 46 South Main Street in Coventry. So we have soil testing done and approved, plus septic designs on both lots have been approved.
Okay, so the septic systems as shown in this plan were approved by DEM.
Yeah.
And then I noticed there's swales shown on the plan. So those are, did you need any permits or from wetlands?
So we got through the septic program with approvals without going to wetlands, but then as part of the checklist item for the town, the DEM wetlands approval was required. So after the fact, we submitted to wetlands and we needed to add the drainage information. So the drainage plan, the drainage information is shown on the plans that we submitted to DEM wetlands, but maybe not the plan that is proposed here. But we added a rooftop
runoff,
rooftop and driveway.
So in other words, stormwater and wetlands are still pending,
right,
and may need to be tweaked.
Yeah, correct.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, just for my own information, you went from 4 lots to 2. Is that because of the soils? Or
I think it was three lots to 2, but
might have been. I thought
yeah,
it was 4.
it was because one of the family members wants to build kind of their house there, and they wanted to make a bigger house, and they were thinking kind of spec houses at first and just selling them, but now.
Okay, so one of them.
He wanted to go with an
I'm familiar with the location, so he's going to take the bigger lot.
House,
okay, no, that's fine.
It just wouldn't fit.
Okay, and were there any considerations given to the site distance coming out of the driveways?
Yeah,
I know it's tough. It's tough to begin with. So
we went to there were some comments on that from the town, and went out to the site and just taking distances from the driveway openings proposed. There seems to be adequate site distance, but the vegetation along the road could be trimmed back, and we are fine with kind of putting a stipulation on there that the vegetation should be stripped back. So we can add that to the plan too, if need be. But I think it's just the low vegetation that's growing along the stone wall. Can't be really mowed or maintained well just because the wall is there.
Yeah. And no fault of the applicant, but it's just, people are used to just zipping through there around the corner, and they're not used to anyone pulling out, and there's going to be people pulling out. So they'll learn after a while.
Yeah. Right.
The hard way. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Cronin, did you see the stipulation list? As far as knocking it down, lead abatement, you're going to go through all that anyway.
I believe most of those requirements are town demolition requirements, to my understanding.
Okay.
It's definitely an older.
I see a
home.
lengthy stipulations report here. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? The applicant?
You okay with the street trees?
I guess that depends on what we uncover when we cut back the brush.
Yeah.
But, it's I mean,
I'm just being, it looks, I mean, I'm reading 7 and 8. I don't know if you read them. One says to include street trees and the next one says if the waiver of the street tree requirements requested, then the applicant can identify existing trees that would serving that purpose. It's pretty well vegetated. I just don't want to require something if the applicant's not comfortable.
I think that Mr. Swanson and I are not too sure what trees are lurking back there. So we might have to address that at final if the board is okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine. We can stipulate that at final.
Pretty thick in there.
Yeah.
That's why I brought up the stipulations. I was a little confused by the 7 and 8. Anybody else before I ask for a motion? Yeah, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Anderson.
Motion to approve the preliminary plan, for the project Black Rock Ridge. 2-lot minor subdivision without a street creation or extension. This is the owner of Javazzo Family Real Estate LLC, Tom Javazzo. AP 79, lot 94, zone R20, lot size 3.7 acres. The applicant proposes to subdivide the existing 3.78 parcel into 2 lots. Again, I'm adding the director's report to my motion. So I'm just gonna include what I feel is pertinent right here at the time as far as the finding of facts, even though there are several of them. These parcels with their proposed acreage are consistent with the comprehensive plan. Traffic impact from a single family house lots should be negligible. I'm just gonna say there are stipulations that we somewhat talked about that I feel need to be met, and I'll just leave that with my director's report. 8 stipulations that I added the director's report to the motion. Yeah, I'd like to make sure this goes ahead final administratively, and that's my motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing, hearing none. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a pre-application site walk, Rice City Estates, owner Pippin Orchard Investment LLC, CO, attorney Tom Cronin, applicant same, proposed major residential 6-lot, single-family home subdivision with no street creation, AP 320, lot 77, zone 5, Rice City Road. Come on up, Mr. Cronin.
Good evening. So we're here for pre-application. Rice City Estates is out in Green on Rice City Road. It's zoned R5. It's 60.93 acres of vacant land right now. And we're proposing a 6-lot conforming subdivision with each lot having access on Rice City Road, so without street creation. Currently, this is surrounded by low-density residential uses. It's a very wooded area, very rural area. The lots will be used for residential, single-family residential homes. They'll have private wells and OWTS sewers. You can see that there's on the plan Mr. Stelli's put up, you see a fairly significant area of wetland to the north of these lots, which will be avoided. So the houses will be pushed forward towards Rice City Road. This is pre-application. So this is a concept drawing, but that's essentially the plan.
Yeah, and I know that we normally schedule a site walk, but because this project meets all requirements, I don't think a scheduled site walk at the site is really needed. If anybody on the board has any objection to that, but I'm sure board members will go out on their own, and I'm one of them that will look at that site. Any other questions for the applicant?
I have questions, and I realize this is just a preliminary plan. Do we have any idea what the setback is from the road on these dwellings? Does it meet the requirements at this stage based on? The reason I'm asking is, did you work on the ledge road, some of the ledge road ones
I
that we
did,
had?
yes.
So this is what we consider to be a substandard road.
The town road currently, yes.
Yeah, so I'm just, again, thinking future. If this plan was recorded and maybe you could check with the applicant, assuming that the houses are set back far enough to meet zoning and it doesn't cause him any grief with regard to a wetland permit. I would like to see when the plan's recorded, some provision for future street widening by the town, label something for roadway purposes, not for development. Cut that out now. If the town decides in the future to upgrade the road or they need to widen it for sight distance, they have the ability to do that on their own. If he doesn't object, it's just food for thought. It may not take away really from this. There appears to be ample land, but yes.
The Public Works Director is already requesting that a portion of this be brought up to the gravel road standards for the town as part of the development.
At the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a dead end
That's
road.
getting to the answer to your question.
Mr. Queen's speaking about
The width.
The width in front of the property. See, Ledge Road was another project that we had several years ago. The road varied like, 18 feet?
Yeah.
And the town was having trouble with trucks passing in as the developments got in there. So the thing is, if the town does decide to upgrade this road, rather than have to go purchase land from 6 homeowners in the future, he could just dedicate that land right now. And if the town does decide they need to widen the road or a portion of it, at least that's 6 homeowners they don't have to deal with. That's why I brought it up.
So the difference between what we're dealing with here in our efforts on Ledge Road is that on Ledge Road, we owned both sides of that road when we were improving it. So the 50-foot road right away suggested by the town of Coventry, required, suggested is not the right word, but at any rate, the 50-foot wide right away with the 26-foot wide roadbed, reduced to 24 for the gravel road standard, we wouldn't be able to provide the whole 50.
Certainly wasn't requesting that.
Yeah,
Just some.
So 25 from our side, I understand what you're saying. So if the plans included a 25-foot right away for the town to.
Including what are we
including what's
thinking? What are we
existing,
doing?
right?
28, 26, somewhere in there now on some of these subdivisions. And if if there's already 20 feet there, it would be 5 to 8 feet
Right.
off each lot.
Yeah. So
He can't give us anything on the other side. So it would all have to come from your side at this point.
yeah. So Mr. Durfee's talking about the area to be improved. You're talking about the area of the road right away.
With right
So
in front of
we-
these 6 lots.
To address both of those things.
Yeah,
I
that's just
gotcha.
my suggestion.
Okay.
Again, I don't know. I was out there when this plan came in with the 5 lots. I happened to be making a trip. Go ahead, Sam. You got something to add?
Yeah. Sam Swartz, Coventry Survey Company, 46 South Main Street, Coventry. I just want to say that the width of the road right now, the right of way is about 33 feet wide.
Oh.
So I don't know if that would really affect, if you did bump out the gravel. I still don't think it would probably get into that.
If the road's
into that-
33
right.
feet wide now, it's probably not needed.
Yeah, it wasn't shown. It just said width varies and it looks so narrow. I thought we were going to have another
Such a preliminary
substandard.
stage
I'm
right
pretty sure
now.
the whole road right city is about the 33 foot.
Okay.
Two rod road. Yeah. So, but I mean, I don't think we would be,
Listen, as long as there's width that's adequate for, 28 feet doesn't seem, that's all we're building. I mean, we're dedicating 50 feet on these subdivisions now, certainly not requiring sidewalks out there. And what are they paving? 28 feet most of the time? So if you got 33, that's plenty.
and I don't think we'd be against that. Just stating that that's probably what the width is.
No,
33.
I'm sorry.
So,
It says width varies and I couldn't tell from the plan. I just assumed it was, I put it this way. I didn't measure the road, but I saw it.
It's narrower at the beginning. Those horses are on the left and people have the fence right up against the road.
And just for the record, the director's report says to okay to come back at preliminary. I know you'd love that, but we have to come back for master. So we don't have any problem with you coming back for master.
No, that's, we'll have a little more detail at master plan, but, given the conformity of the land areas, I don't know that there'll be much improvement on the plans.
Thank you. I'll see you at master plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, next we have a preliminary plan, Rock Hill Estates, owner Laura T. Freeman, Sharon A. Tatalo, applicant same, proposed 2-lot minor subdivision with one existing house, AP 318, lot 201, zone RR2. It's 5528 Phillips Hill Road. Come on up, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Freeman. I'm with American Engineering. We're located at 400 South County Trail, Suite A201, Exeter, Rhode Island. I'm a registered professional engineer, class 3 house designer. I'm here with Laura Freeman. The applicant, Sharon Tatalo, couldn't be with us tonight. If we could bring up the plan set. Thank you. First sheet, it's an overall site view. You get the imagery. You see it's in a residential area. It's on the east side of Phillips Hill Road. The address is 528 and 530. There's 2 existing dwellings on the property. It's a residential zone, RR2. The plat consists of 29 acres. It's assessed plat 318, lot 201. John, if we could go to sheet 2. The existing conditions plan, there's 2 dwellings located on site. Currently, we have the existing dwelling to the north. It's serviced by an existing OWTS system. There's an existing dwelling to the south of that building that is in worse shape. It's served by a cesspool. Our proposal is to abandon that cesspool, have it pumped filled, and that house would be demolished. They did get lead, so we will address that during that demolition. There's an existing barn further up into the parcel at the end of the gravel drive. We had the wetlands flagged at the beginning of the project. Scott at NRS did the flagging. There's a large wetland body to the south of the existing southerly building. There's a wetland area located northwest of the site that was also flagged. The 50-foot perimeter encroaches on the northwest corner. And then in the easterly portion of the site, there's an isolated wetland that doesn't have a 50-foot buffer. It's less than 3 acres. We did a class 1 survey of the frontage as well as a portion of Rock Hill Road, which is an undeveloped road north of the site, past the stone wall that crosses the property. If you could go to sheet 3. Thank you. This is the proposed development plan. We are proposing to provide a private gravel road with a cul-de-sac that would provide frontage for parcel B and parcel A. Parcel A would be the existing northerly dwelling to remain. We are proposing drainage for that cul-de-sac. The dwelling to the north would be serviced by a new private well. The existing private well that served all 3 buildings, that would be used for irrigation purposes only and disconnected from water supply for that building. There would be a proposed dwelling. Once the existing dwelling to be raised has been demolished, we're proposing a 5-bedroom dwelling in the rear of the parcel that will be accessed with an extension of the gravel drive. We have an approved OWTS system for that. We're also clearing a pasture and providing drainage for the increased runoff from that clearing. We got all of our approvals through DEM, be it outs, stormwater, got a soil erosion control permit from the town engineer, and we got the okay from Public Works, as well as the state fire marshal, because the town fire marshal, I don't believe there was one when we went to get that permit. So we've gone through multiple steps of approvals. We submitted a preliminary plan. Then with a few discussions with the planning department, came to we wanted to approach this slightly differently with an alternative layout, which is the sheet 3A that's part of your packets. Initially, we proposed the cul-de-sac to provide frontage for parcels A and B with a different understanding of the frontage language to meet the zoning requirements. So it was my opinion, as well as the opinion of the planners, that as long as we were able to access the frontage, the 225 feet of frontage required, that we should be able to chop off or create two lots. Both would have accessible frontage to Phillips Hill Road. And then we could provide an access easement over the existing driveway to parcel B in the rear of the lot. It limits the amount of runoff that we'd be creating. It would minimize the stormwater management that we would have to do. There's a couple advantages to it. We prefer this plan. And that's the route we would like to go moving forward. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts or comments.
Any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Is this going to be?
Yes.
Both.
Yes, this is my mother and Aunt Sharon, Sharon Tatalo.
Okay, that's it, right?
Okay. Anybody else?
It won't be restricted to family. So basically what this does is you have the required legal frontage on Rock Hill. You just don't have the physical frontage.
Correct.
And you will have access via the easement.
So
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Phillips Hill Road, we have enough frontage. I believe it's 250 feet of frontage that we would need to have two parcels along Phillips Hill Road. The misunderstanding or the difference of opinion on what the frontage was, we needed to provide access to Phillips Hill Road along the frontage for parcel B. So as you can see on the plan, there's a corridor where you could run a proposed driveway in between the 50-foot perimeter and access Phillips Hill Road. So that would meet the physical access requirement of the frontage definition.
Okay, all right. So you have physical and legal frontage on physical Phillips Hill Road. It's difficult because of the wetlands. So you had that. So you did that other thing with the fancy cul-de-sac. This is far less disturbance. Yeah. So you're saying we still have our legal frontage. It's just we're going to access this property via an easement, which makes more sense.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, hearing none, entertain a motion.
Is this a public hearing?
No, it's not. It's a minor. Go ahead, Mr. Kenny.
Preliminary. I'd like to make a favorable motion for preliminary. Rock Hill Estates, 2-lot minor subdivision. Laura T. Freeman and Sharon A. Tatalo, 528 Phillips Hill Road, AP 318, lot 201, zone R02, lot size 29 acres. Existing use is single-family residential. Proposed use is 2 single-family homes. The applicant proposes a 2-lot minor subdivision with 1 additional house and the creation of a private street. There's no potential for further subdivision. The proposed lots will have access to Phillips Hill Road, a street that shall be adequate and access vehicular traffic. The proposed lots will be physically accessible for emergency service from street upon which they front. The proposed lots conform to Coventry zoning regulations. The 2-lot minor subdivision is consistent with the Town of Coventry Comprehensive Plan. The proposed residential development is in keeping with adjacent uses. The lots will have frontage on Phillips Hill Road. Findings of fact, comprehensive plan supports the residential development in RO2 zone. Preliminary plan recommendation, the planning staff recommends the planning commission grant conditional preliminary approval subject to the following stipulations as noted in the planning director's report. I'd also like to include the planning director's report in my recommendation.
Would you like to add final administrative?
I would also like to add final administrative to my recommendation. Thank you.
I have a motion by Mr. Kenny. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. Any discussion?
It just one thing. So that barn that's out there now with the existing facilities, I know that's pre-existing. It's over 20 acres, but we don't have to deal with that. He's already got a special use permit because that's an accessory dwelling or grandfathered in.
Well, we had discussed that early on in the project.
Yeah.
It's not a dwelling. It's simply a barn.
It's not considered an accessory structure.
It's an accessory structure. It's not considered an accessory dwelling unit. It's uninhabitable.
So okay. All right. I just noticed it had its own on-site wastewater treatment system and it noted it had facilities. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Any other questions? I have a motion. I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have a director's report.
Just very quickly in your package, there was a notice of the Rhode Island Division of Statewide Planning has the workshop. Oh, sorry. Not used to that. The Rhode Island Division of Statewide Planning has a number of workshops that are free that they put out there for municipal volunteers, especially those that are volunteers, such as yourselves, despite the fact you get a teeny weeny little stipend. The one that's coming up, you'll see the dates that are in there, but workshop 1 is conducting effective public meetings. The next one is August 31st. And then workshop 2, making land use decisions, that the one for that would be September 28th. I just encourage folks, if you're interested from that standpoint, I know there've been a number of comments and I mentioned it the last special meeting last week that trying to work on making the meetings more effective or quicker from that standpoint. Such as like trying to draft a motion sheet for you for this evening, just so you can see that kind of stuff. This is just one of those sort of little additive things that if you're interested in it, there might be some good issues that pop up or hints and best management practices that would be good for you. The other thing, just to dovetail with that, the Rhode Island State's Attorney's Office offers some free training for municipalities on the Open Meeting Act as well as the Public Records Act. I'm going to try to get that scheduled for the town of Coventry as a whole, not just for the Planning Commission, but the Zoning Board, every other commission that has to meet the Open Meeting Act. I think it's important, one, because there's, right, even if you go off to the state's attorney's website, there's a really good download with regard to that. That's their presentation. But every single year they do this report, and they also put in that annual report every single thing that they examined with regard to the meetings, any violations that were brought up, and they have the sort of what was the result of that particular report. So it's actually a really cool thing if you want to check that out. I've email that to us?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And but I think having that training is good for everybody, so you more fully understand the Open Meetings Act as well as the Public Records Act. For instance, our town, we just received in our office this massive request for public information, always the knee gut reaction is, oh my God, do we really have to do this and all that? But you do, and you have to figure out a way to respond and do it in the way that you're capable of dealing with. Even if there's embarrassing stuff out there. And as a for instance,
I'm not the owner of your personal equipment at home, but you every once in a while will have emails to go back and forth with regard to something. All of that is discoverable. So in a Public Records Act, even though we received that big, huge thing, it's very possible that each and every single one of you could receive the same request asking for any emails, notices, documents, what have you, pertaining to that particular request. So again, it's that kind of training that I think is really helpful to understand that. So if you write a note in your hand or something like that, that's a public document. If you use your personal email for business-related stuff related to the Planning Commission, that's discoverable. No matter how embarrassing whatever your personal emails are, your personal computers and your handheld devices can actually be seized at some point during some of these types of things. And if it gets hung up in court, you don't see it for 6 to 9 months. So just as a quick suggestion, if you have personal emails that you use for your PC business, you might want to just set up your own Gmail account that's specific to anything that you deal with the Planning Commission. And that way you're separating your personal stuff from your business stuff. And if you get such a request, it's really easy to provide that information because you don't have to filter through all your personal emails. Just so those are just the kind of suggestions that can come up.
I actually took that live webinar. I think it was offered a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
And I'm not sure, but I think boards and commissions are required to take the open meetings one by law annually and send a certification in.
Yeah, that's new.
And if you are the keeper of the record, you're required to take the APRA one, which I was also required to take, and send a certification in. Yep. And it's a YouTube video, so it's really easy to find. The last year's and now this year's summit, which just took place a couple of weeks ago, is available to everybody.
Great. So I'll make sure to send that link and with anything along those lines. Yeah. I'm not used to being required to do that. It's more like I try to shove it upon people to say, go do this as a recommendation, but that's good that Rhode Island does that.
I have a question and I'm not sure who can answer. How long do we have to keep this stuff? We go through, we approve something, just like I did tonight. How long do I?
So I can answer that. You don't have to keep it for any required length of time. The town is required to comply with records retention regulations that are promulgated by the Rhode Island Secretary of State's office. And so all official records are reposited at the town and the building and planning office. And there are schedules that the regulations that dictate how long the town keeps those records. But you can put it in the trash when you leave or when you get home. You're not required to keep them.
And if we do keep it, and if we do keep it and we've got little notes on the side and someone files an open records request with us, we have to turn those records over if we still possess them.
If you possess them, yes.
Recycling bin it is.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain ones.
Anything else, sir?
That's all I had, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we do have number 10, public comment. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to make a comment? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Smith. Second by Mr. Kenny. All those in favor?
Aye.